If you're a Clemson Tigers fan, this season might feel like it's taken forever to get here. To have this preseason hype, to have this potential national championship hype, it feels like it's been forever since Clemson's been in this position. But now you're here. And today we're going to take a deep dive into the Clemson Tigers to see what we should expect from this team in 2025. Now, Dabo Swinney has not wavered. Yes, he has wavered a little bit in his stance towards the transfer portal. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. But overall, the message is still the same. We are going to win by recruiting at the high school level, and we are going to find certain pieces that are going to supplement our talent really well from the transfer portal. Overall, though, this is still a heavy high school team. This is going to be still a program that is going to rely on its recruiting efforts. Dabo Swinney has really dialed in his approach, and I think he's almost doubled down on this is exactly who we are, and this is exactly who we're going to be for the long run. And this is a team that expects to be competing for a conference championship once again, a national title, and they have all the right tools to get back to who they once were, and they're going to do it with a familiar formula. Last year was a 10-4 season. They still found a way to win the ACC despite not having their best year, and they surprised a lot of people in the postseason. And when you look at how things started last year, that was not something people expected. Now you have high expectations heading into 2025, and it's going to be kind of a familiar formula. Garrett Riley, I think one thing we're not talking about a lot is Garrett Riley appears to have things dialed in as well. This is a guy who comes from TCU. Things didn't go super well right off the bat, but last year we saw a lot of exciting things, and this year we expect a lot of excitement as well. You also bring in Tom Allen to fix the defense. The defense wasn't up to Clemson standards last year, and they're hoping that Tom Allen has all of the answers to figure things out in 2025. The transfer portal is something that Clemson just got really ripped for, and Dabo Swinney not bringing in certain players that he could have gotten was probably the biggest thing that people talked about. And even this year, they only bring in 3 guys. They didn't bring in a ton of talent that's going to make a huge impact, but I like the 3 guys that they get. Will Hult is going to help a defensive line that felt already stacked right off the bat. He is going to be someone that has a huge impact. Tristan Smith, kind of the same thing with wide receiver position. And when you talk about how Clemson's been in the past, elite wide receiver play, elite defensive line play. That has been 2 of the biggest things that we've seen from this team, and that is a thing that we've seen work really well for this team. They're going back to that. You lose a ton of players because that's just going to be how things go, but you don't lose a ton of talent where you're thinking, okay, those guys are irreplaceable. So while you do lose Phil Maffa, Barrett Carter, RJ Mickens, I think this team truly feels that they have plenty of guys returning that, not that they're going to forget about them, but it's going to make it seem like this is just how we do things. We reload at Clemson. We don't rebuild. And that's the mentality that Clemson had for a long time. And that's the mentality that I think they're back to doing. They have the right amount of players, the right pieces coming back to make this an incredible run in 2025. And the offense will play a huge role in that. And we might see an offense that in the past, we've seen really exciting offenses. You go back to the Deshaun Watson days and look at what Taj Boyd was doing. This was a Clemson team that expected to be one of the best offenses in college football. And we saw this team kind of get back to that in 2024, and it should be that in 2025. Cade Klubnik is going to really dictate how successful this team is. And if you're a Clemson fan, you feel really good about what he can do. The first game is going to show us a lot. The first game is really where we need to see him play well, because last year, the first game was horrible. We need to see it better from him. And if you look at what he did towards the end of the season, there's reason to be optimistic for what he can do in this first game and for the rest of the season. Klubnik has the ability to make throws that any quarterback can make. He has the ability to be a dual threat as well. You're hoping not to use a lot of his legs, but if you need him to do it, he's capable of doing it. Ran for 463 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2024. He threw for over 3,600 yards with 36 touchdowns through the air. I think that if he plays even better than he did last year, you're looking at a Heisman candidate. You're looking at a college football playoff team, a national championship team. And he has all of the right tools to make that happen as well. Klubnik has plenty of options downfield. The running back position, though, is maybe where you have some concerns. But as long as this group stays healthy, you have three very different options in terms of your trio that should be the rotational pieces that are going to be really exciting. Gideon Davidson's a true freshman that's going to be a really fun player to watch. He has all of the tools. We've seen it from him. Everything that's being reported about him is that he is the real deal. He's also going to wear number 9. So people, of course, are going to have flashbacks to Travis Etienne. And you look at what he is capable of doing. If he's able to give those Etienne vibes, this is going to be an offense that is one of the best, if not the best, in college football. Jay Haynes, as long as he can stay healthy, I really like what he's capable of doing. I think that he is an underappreciated back in college football. A lot of people don't really know about him and what he's capable of doing. Part of that is not being on the field, but I think that he's still getting overlooked and, again, underappreciated. And Clemson kind of needs some of those guys. When you look at players that have had success for Clemson in the right moments, it's been guys that people often overlook. I think of like a Hunter Renfrow is one of the perfect examples of that. Now, he did get to a point where, okay, this is someone we need to worry about, but overall, people were sleeping on him. And Jay Haynes could be another guy that is exactly what they need. You bring in Adam Rendell from the wide receiver position. I think that, one, it's hard to miss him, but I think that that gives you a lot of different looks that not a lot of people, I think, are accounting for. He is someone that you can run the football with, but also you can split him out wide. So you may think, hey, we're in 10 personnel right now, but really you have 5 wide receivers out, and you can just motion him out into empty and put him in a matchup against a linebacker that automatically gives you a mismatch for Cade Klubnik to utilize. And if I trust someone to get Cade Klubnik good matchups, it's going to be Garrett Riley. Garrett Riley is one of the best offensive minds in this game right now, and he has the talent to be able to make defenses look ridiculous. And having a guy like Adam Randall at a new position gives him a whole new option in terms of what he can call, the formations he can do, the shifts, the motions. All of that stuff is going to be tremendous for an offense that's already going to be good. And also, by the way, the passing options are already stacked. This is if you throw Adam Randall into that mix, you are already in a great position. He just gives you an extra bonus. The trio of Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, and Antonio Williams is going to be really exciting. I heard Josh Pate talk about in his hot take section. Someone said that they're going to be the first trio to have 3 to be all over 1,000 yards receiving. Now that's crazy, but at the same time, when you look at how many games they could play, that may happen. I'm not going to put money on it. I'm not going to bet on it. I'm not going to say it's going to happen. But when you look at what they did last year, Wesco, 41 catches for 708 yards and 5 touchdowns. TJ Moore, 45 catches, 651 yards and 5 touchdowns. Antonio Williams, 75 catches for 904 yards and 11 touchdowns. And I think a lot of people would say that that wasn't their best effort. It was still really good, but I don't think that we've reached the ceiling of what this trio is capable of doing. Now, the problem is that you also have good depth behind them. We just talked about Adam Randall and what that is going to look for this Clemson Tigers offense. You also have Cole Turner, who caught 16 passes last year. Tristan Smith, who's basically just pushing everybody for time, will definitely be a heavy part of the rotation as well. Tyler Brown is someone who didn't have the greatest year, but he is someone that we've seen in the past have a really good year as well. So while that's probably not likely, if you're going to put a trio to do that, this would be a trio that you feel really good about. Now, Williams was first team all ACC selection, someone who took a big step last year. We saw a lot of good things from him, and we saw him take that step that we needed to see from him to give Cade Klubnik that go-to option. TJ Moore, I think that we have yet to see the best of TJ Moore, and that's terrifying if you're facing Clemson. Brian Wesco Jr., kind of the same thing. Another young guy who is ready to prove that last year wasn't a fluke by any means. He averaged 17.3 yards per catch. He is someone that is ready to take his game to another level, and if he can, that makes this group terrifying. And they're already scary to face as is. So taking a step would only make things worse for every team that they're facing. Now, the tight end position is kind of unknown right now. Olsen, Pat Henry, Josh Sapp, and Christian Bentancur are going to be competing for that spot. Not a ton of production between the trio of those guys. So you're looking to see who's going to be the starter, who's going to be part of the rotation, who's that go-to guy at that position. The wide receiver position appears set. Maybe they're going to be more used as blockers than anything. But right now, the tight end position is probably the one unknown you have in that passing attack. Quarterback position is set. Starters are set at wide receiver. Depth is great at wide receiver. You're just looking for those tight ends to solidify themselves as that group that can take things to another level, as if you weren't expecting big things from this group already. Now, another good part of that is that this offensive line is going to be one of the best, if not the best, in college football, and the depth behind them pretty much ensures that that's going to continue for the long run. The tackles are absolutely stacked. Tristan Lee and Blake Miller are all conference type players. I mean, everybody's all conference type players at Clemson. That's kind of why you recruit them here. You expect them to be that kind of a guy and that kind of a player for this team. And 4 of these 5 guys were honorable mention all ACC or higher in 2024. The only guy that wasn't was Colin Sadler, who comes in and expects to be a dominant force for this team. And he doesn't have to really do it all by himself because he has other guys around him. Ryan Linthicum is going to be the center once again, started 14 games last year for this team. Walter Parks, 14 starts. And when you look at the number of games played, this just stacks up. This is a group that is experienced. There's not going to be a ton that rattles them. There's not going to be a ton that confuses them. And that helps, especially with a returning quarterback, a group of skill position players that are set to have a monster year. And then, by the way, your offensive line is going to dominate. I think they're going to be a really exciting group. And we saw, once again, I think for some of these guys, you just saw the tip of the iceberg. You saw what they're capable of doing. And now if they can do that game in and game out, this is going to be a potentially really exciting team. But again, you just got to put it all together. There are some question marks. There are some concerns at certain positions. But overall, the general feeling is that Clemson is in a great place to make things happen. The future of this program is bright. Even though you don't have a ton of experience behind some of these guys, you have guys that you recruited for a reason. The most experienced player behind them right now is Harris Sewell. Had 3 starts last year for this team, has started 8 games for his career. Everyone else, though, is kind of green in experience. Braden Jacobs is someone who has a bright future, has the NFL pedigree, knows what he can do, and if they need someone to step up at tackle, Braden Jacobs could be that guy. Ian Reed, Watson Young, Elijah Herman, those are guys that have a bright future as well. You just may not hear from them for the really until garbage time because of the group you have coming back. Now, if you're able to stay healthy, then you don't have to worry about that. But if you have to develop depth, if there's a team that's equipped for it, there are probably a handful of teams that are equipped for it up front. Clemson is definitely one of them. And that only makes this offense better. That only makes this offense even more dangerous, as if they didn't need any help with that already. The defense is kind of the same thing where you're excited about what the talent is coming back. You're just hoping that Tom Allen could fix this. Because when you look at this group last year, statistically, it was not one of their best groups. However, coming into the 2025 season, there's a reason why the nostalgic feelings are coming back for the Clemson Tigers. And it's the defensive line that's going to get things started. You bring back plenty of talent that is capable of being either All-American, All-Conference. Those are guys that are ready to take their games to the next level and then get to the NFL. You look at what Clemson's had in the past at defensive line. This has been a group that's dominated. This has been a group that expects big things. And it's a reason why this program is in the position that it is. TJ Parker is going to be a really fun player to watch. Once again, 20 tackles for loss. Are you kidding me? 11 sacks, 6 forced fumbles. If you're able to get that kind of production again, the games are pretty much over before they even start. Now, there's certain games that aren't, but TJ Parker is an absolute stud at defensive end. You also return another stud in Peter Woods. Now, 1, he has to stay healthy. 2, he's finally going to be able to play a defensive tackle position that he's more equipped for. But also at the same time, when you saw him at defensive end, there were certain plays where you're like, this dude's 315. He's 315 pounds and he's moving like that. He has the power, he has the quickness that a lot of people don't know, but now you put him into his more natural position and you feel like that makes this group even better. Now, a guy who kind of gets forgotten about in this group is DeMonte Capehart. Another guy, he's 6'5", 315 pounds. He has the ability to be great as well. You're just probably going to lose him in terms of attention because Parker and Woods are going to command most of that. Oh, by the way, you bring in Will Helt from Purdue. And at Purdue, if you know anything about the Boilermakers and how terrible they were, making plays wasn't something that happened quite often. So the fact that Helt had 56 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks tells you everything you need to know about his abilities when, oh, you're going to put him opposite of TJ Parker. You're going to put him right next to Peter Woods. Okay, offense, good luck blocking that. That's where you get really excited, is this starting group. That's where you have a ton of optimism around the Clemson Tigers and their ability to get better, because Tom Allen gets to work with a group that is absolutely stacked, just like they were in the past. Now, the depth behind the edge is also really exciting. Jaheim Lawson is back, 24 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. Cade Denhoff, 16 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Those are 2 guys that are locked and loaded if their number is called. Now, the tackle position, kind of a different story. Stephen Green is going to be an interesting player to watch after what he did last year. 16 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Vic Burley could also be someone that takes his game to another level. It's just going to be hard to see the field when you have DeMonte Capehart and Peter Woods. Now, Woods was hurt last year, so maybe that happens again, and Green or Burley has to step up. That's really where you maybe have more questions, and that's where you need that depth. But if you're Clemson, you're in a great position to make things happen because you have the starting talent you need, you have the depth behind them. And again, that formula that Dabo Swinney is living on is a reason why this team has good depth and has the ability to get to where they need to be and win football games at a high level. Now, the linebacker position, you have plenty of talent as well. The question is just going to be, how does that talent perform in the big games? Sammy Brown is going to be one of the best linebackers in college football, I think. And I think people would argue that he's not even the best linebacker on his own team. Wade Woodaz is going to be a really fun player to watch. And this is a tandem that combined for 160 tackles last year, 22 tackles for loss, 8 sacks. They know what to do. They know how to get to the football, and they are going to be really fun when they're on the field. And they're going to do that behind a defensive line that's going to command so much attention that a lot of times they're making easier plays because they're just wide open. They have the ability to run through open lanes. There's not going to be anybody that can reach them because the defensive line is going to command so much attention. And that's just by that happening, this defense will be better. This defense will find ways to be successful and find ways where they're going to win to make things so much easier for them. And the linebacker position is in a great place. The depth behind them is really where you maybe have more questions. Now, you bring in Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama, only had 7 tackles last year. Jamal Anderson had 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack for this team last year. Behind them is really where you're inexperienced. And it's not that Alexander and Anderson are extremely experienced, but you, I think, have an idea of what you are getting from them. So you're in a good position for your starters. The depth maybe is a little bit concerning, but if I trust someone to fix this defense, it's Tom Allen. You look at what he's done in his previous stops. Overall, I think you're in a pretty good place. I think that there's a reason why you brought him in. You didn't feel that this group lived up to the standard that Dabo Swinney has and Clemson has, and you found a way to fix it. And that's going to make life easier on the back end as well. And this is a back end that is loaded with talent. But once again, overall, this defense does need to take a step, and the secondary is not exempt from that. That being said, you have some guys that if they play just like they did last year and more consistently, you're looking at multiple NFL draft picks here. Avion Terrell is one of the best corners in college football. Opposite him, you have Jaden Lucas, who's going to get tested quite a bit. I think a lot of teams know what Avion Terrell is capable of doing, and they tested him quite a bit last year. That probably changes this year, honestly. I think teams saw, hey, we're going to give him a shot, and then they realized that's really the dumbest thing that we could do. That's just not a smart decision, so we're going to do something else. He's a second team All ACC selection, so I expect that to be much better because teams are going to be affected by his presence. He is going to impact the game purely by just being on the field. He is going to find ways to change the offense's game plan because of what he's just standing there. He's literally just on the field, and teams know probably not going to take a shot at him. Now, teams will definitely still test him, but he is someone that I think is going to have a huge impact literally just by showing up. Now, he's not going to just take that for what it's worth. He is going to work. We've seen what he's done to elevate his game already, and he is someone that I think is ready to take his game to another level, which is crazy to think that there's another level in his game, but that's what you get when you have the talented players that you do at Clemson. Lucas is going to get a lot of challenges because of Terrell being on the field as well. Now, the nice thing is that the safeties are going to help him out quite a bit. You have Ricardo Jones, Khalil Barnes, Kylan Griffin will all be in that rotation, so you don't have too many concerns about them. Khalil Barnes picked off 4 passes last year. Jones had 1. Griffin also had 1. Barnes is a really exciting player that I don't think a lot of people are talking too much about him, but he is someone that has the potential to be a major impact player because, again, teams are probably so locked in on certain players that they forget about a guy like Khalil Barnes. And that's a dangerous thing to do against Clemson, especially with the amount of talent that you have. But at the same time, it happens all the time. So we'll see what happens there. Overall, you feel really good about this group. Ashton Hampton will be in the nickel spot. Behind those guys, other than Kylan Griffin, you have relative inexperience. Shelton Lewis is someone who has a good bit of experience, but overall, you feel good about the talent level. You feel good about what they're capable of doing, and you feel good about what that means for winning football games in 2025. And winning football games will be challenging if you're a Clemson fan or if you're on Clemson. But at the same time, you're about as locked and loaded for this season as you've ever been. And there's plenty of excitement. There's plenty of hype. And we just talked about all of the reasons for that. The game against LSU is a huge one. And granted, it doesn't ruin your season if you lose it, but you really need that one, especially after what we saw last year. You don't want to be behind the 8 ball trying to figure things out. You don't want to be in a position where you are feeling bad about what happened in week 1 and trying to bounce back. Because 2 weeks later, you go to Georgia Tech. And I'm not saying that Georgia Tech is going to beat Clemson, but I don't think Georgia Tech is going to feel sorry for a Clemson team that lost to LSU. I don't think this is a team that is going to be that way, though, where they're going to get upset by a team like a Georgia Tech or a Syracuse. I think they're going to take things week by week. They have LSU right now as their only focus, and they're going to find ways to take things week by week. Even when you play Troy, you're not going to look ahead to Georgia Tech. You're not going to look ahead to Syracuse. You are going to take everybody at face value, and you're going to find ways to take care of business. You go to North Carolina and Boston College, and then you get SMU, a rematch of the ACC championship game. I think those 2 programs will be really fun to watch at that point in the season, and that'll be a big one once again for Clemson. Duke and Florida State come to town after the bye week. Then you go to Louisville. That'll be a tough one. And then Furman at home before you go to South Carolina. I think that the standard of this team, the ceiling has to be 12-0. The floor has to be 10-2. If you go anything below 10-2, you're going to feel very disappointed. And I think that the channel feels the same way. 93% of you think they're going to finish 1st through 4th, or at least expect them to. Now, there are some crazy people that think they're going to finish anywhere between 9th and 17th. I don't think that's going to happen. I would be shocked if they finish 5th through 8th. I do see them as 1st through 4th. Anything below that would be kind of sounding the alarms. You'd have a lot of concerns about Dabo Swinney's future. You'd have a lot of things going on that you're wondering what went wrong. And that would be just a chaotic scenario to envision. That being said, I don't think that's going to happen. I think this team is very much in a good place. Week 1 against LSU is going to tell us a lot, and it's going to tell us a lot about how we should be excited for the Clemson Tigers in 2025.